you curious about what it would be like to walk on the streets of Pompeii? Have you dreamed about a Mediterranean cruise? Well, I'm David Day, and I'd like to invite you along. This is actually the middle point of our 10-day Mediterranean cruise that my wife and I took, and we're going to focus on the city of Pompeii. And this channel is about retirement. It's my retirement quest, helping you have a happy, healthy, and fulfilling retirement. We're going to start with Pompeii. When we walked in, we're going to start with the gymnasium itself, and I'm going to carry you along so you get to see it as it unfolds.
We're entering Pompeii. The gymnasium is where we are for the gladiators.
Before we go any farther, I probably should mention that I will have later in the video, I'm going to show a few things that are probably a little more adults oriented. So if you have young kids, you might want to think about when you see my face next, that's going to be the time I'm going to introduce a couple a little bit more controversial things that we found in Pompeii. So hang on for that. It should be interesting. Anyhow, we're going to start looking at a picture that I'm going to show the two areas. We're going to look at the two theaters. The first one is a smaller one, and then that'll be in one cluster. And then you'll notice we're going to go over to where the larger theater is. So here you are, the smaller, the Odeon Theater first.
This is where we're looking right here. But they wanted to go over the big amphitheater there. So they had the gymnasium here.
Okay, the smallest theater, do you see this trench right here? They used to have pots in there, and they would vary the amount of water that would EQ this room, because this was an enclosed theater seating about 800 people. But can you imagine from a sound perspective? They knew about acoustics, and they did something like that, used water levels in jars to affect the EQ of the room. Amazing.
This is a large theater. It seats 5,000 people. These wooden seats are all set up for the summer. They will be taken down during the winter time once again. These seats here are for the VIP. Then men and then women will be at the highest.
The name of this shop is Thermopolium, Thermos hut, places where they sold hot drinks in wintertime. Don't forget, wherever we walk, we are on the original floor. Lava,
This
and
is
below
a
is
wine
lava.
shop here.
These are Chorios grooves.
So here is a view. I'm standing basically at the corner of a main street, and as we swing the camera around, you can see that street and the buildings on either side of it. So notice in the center would be where the chariots and the horses would be, and then people could walk along the sidewalks. Just so fascinating.
This is the place for collecting water from the rain. This is a wealthy man who actually had his own bath, his own bathroom. They went ahead and built up the roofs like it would have been originally.
I have a lot of footage of the interior of this house, and I didn't know how much time to spend actually filming it. But I went ahead and did it partly because our time in Pompeii, you see those frescoes, when you realize what this home would have looked like prior to the eruption. This captured the beautiful detail. You see the gorgeous colors, and you see within in the center there, you've got those individual framed pictures, and all developed in the frescoes. And then I love the ability that we could then walk in and see this courtyard and kind of imagine what it would have been like to live in this era. I guess in my mind, I always thought it would just be white marble and rocks and things like that, but no, the walls are covered. a beautiful artwork, it would have been lovely, lovely. And so for me, Pompeii had a very similar effect on me that I had when I was standing in Ephesus, being able to think about and picture what it'd be like to live then.
Wow. Look at the walls.
So as we look at this beautiful artwork that was on the walls, isn't that gorgeous? You can barely make it out, that woman standing in a pagoda sort of a structure, and you see the animals and things. It's all fairly faded, and it is actually quite a miracle that we can actually see these. When Mount Vesuvius erupted, it was a 2-day process. In fact, most of the deaths occurred on the second day, because the first day was more pumice and things of that nature, but it was that pyroclastic flow that came down and just overwhelmed massive heat and buried essentially the city in anywhere from 13 to 20 feet of volcanic ash and pumice. So this was the eruption of Mount Vesuvius in AD 79, and while that was devastating, it did protect this really from a discovery, although over the centuries there were different I guess you would call them treasure hunters who were able to get some of the treasures out of here, but so much of Pompeii still is unexcavated even to this date. It got more serious in the late 1800s.
Archaeologists realize that they not only, the house over here, the original place, but the house was based on pre-existing older.
I don't know if we'll be able to see this, but these are grooves in the roadway from the chariots. They used the chariots, the width of the chariot wheels, to decide the width of the railroad system, which is interesting. We're coming up to a bakery now. So you can see all the bakery and the ovens. There's a groove here in the wood. They realized they had wooden doors that slid. All the wood was destroyed here in Pompeii. I'm going to show you this first main street here. We're approaching the Roman bath. This would be the public bath for the people. Oh, there's a swimming pool. This is an example of the marble overlay. I bet a lot of this would have been covered with marble. And the pool. Oh, how beautiful. Once again, this is the public bath. Over here is going to be the men's section. And then over here will be the women's. So I think we'll go to the women's section first. This is the women's section. So these are little shops that would have sold perfume and lotions and things to the women. You can see the frescoes and paintings on the wall. Now we're entering into the women's section. This is the men's side, far more ornate than the women's side, which is kind of ironic, but that's the way it was in the society. This is all part of the public bath.
Okay, as promised, here's my mug. So that means we're entering into the adults section here first. We're going to see a couple of clips. The first will be of a plaster cast of a couple of people that were killed in the eruption, and there will also be a phallic symbol. Let's just put it this way. I'll explain later. Okay, these are not actual people, but the people were encased in the ash, and so a void was formed when they filled that with plaster and then looked at the plaster that they could see the forms of the people that had been. The other thing I want to show you is this phallic symbol, and it was to show people where the prostitutes were.
This is what our guide called a stoplight. Wow. This is the forum here. Wow.
Where the people used to come during the public election. The floor was this, see the original floor. This is not marble, this is travertino.
This is the original floor right here.
They stole a lot.
Wow.
Marche stole a lot on the line.
And there is this is the basilica. There had been a bad earthquake more than 10 years before the eruption. They were having to repair the columns using brick material and then overlay that with the plaster. Yeah, these little stones just function as lights in the street. These are places to tie up horses in the stone.
And this would have been a place to water your horses.
This is the entry to the house, and just like in Ephesus, the merchants are always on the street, and then the homes go into the interior.
So whenever you come, you can see something that you haven't seen. Okay.
Look at these pictures of Pompeii. Do you see how they reminded me of Ephesus? When you think about people living in homes, many of them built into the hillside, and they could have a kind of a collective benefit to other home dwellers on the hillside. This is a great example. As I show you this view of Pompeii looking from our cruise ship, I hope you'll realize that volcanoes are a part of life. And in fact, I live in Portland, Oregon, and here is Mount St. Helens, and it was just not that long ago that Mount St. Helens blew. And so it is quite sobering to stand there as I was standing in the forum and looking how close Mount Vesuvius was, and the reality that so many people lost their lives in that eruption, and how important it is that we appreciate what we have and the life that we live. So my hope is that you'll enjoy this journey with me, and I hope that you like and subscribe our videos. The next step on our journey is going to be in Rome. And Rome is going to be a good example. I think you'll love the pictures that I have. But it's one of those things that reminds me, I wish I had done a little bit better preparation in anticipation of seeing the sites that we were able to enjoy in Rome. So join with us. I'll have links for the previous videos as well as future ones here. So I will look forward to meeting up with you in Rome. Thank you. We'll see you.